Hi everyone, Tams here. In this video I'm going to address a very common question I get, and that is how to start your own letter writing club. Okay, before you get all crazy about your club name and logo and merchandise and dues and making money and all of that sort of thing, I would highly suggest that you tackle some basic things first, some foundational things first, and then of course you can layer in all those other things later on. But I would seriously question, first of all, why you want to do this. Now, if you just want to be a stationery store and you want to start off selling stationery on Etsy, that's awesome, and I applaud you. I would love to have a stationery store. I love stationery. But promoting letter writing, I think you have to be a little more in love with the art of letters in general, because there's a lot of legwork you're going to have to do for a while. And you're just going to have to love it to be able to stick with it. So first thing I would do is question why you're doing it. Second thing, if you love letter writing, then just do it. Don't worry so much about all those other details. Just get it started. I first, several years ago, I started volunteering at my local library. You may reach out. I highly recommend reaching out to your local library and seeing if they would like to do anything with you. You may be surprised. They usually have a meeting room. They usually have lots of supplies. They have their own marketing outlets themselves. And I just enjoyed it very much when I volunteered at my local library and had little Saturday letter writing sessions. It was very rewarding. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about teaching. I learned a lot about kits. I learned a lot about what gets people excited, and it's just a very rewarding experience. So I highly recommend you start at your local library. And if you can't do that, maybe just reach out to your own friends. I remember years ago I reached out to some friends on Facebook and just said, hey, would anybody like to start exchanging letters? And you may be surprised at who responds to that. And then you can just invite people to your home, people that you know, and get it started and figure out if you're really interested in this and if it's something that you want to do. And then from there you can branch out. Maybe meet at a coffee shop if the coffee shop is willing to let you meet there. I've seen people meet at brew hubs, and then eventually I had a friend that owned a stationery store, and we now meet at the Tampa Letter Writers, which is the group that I'm a part of. We now meet in a beautiful space, but it is owned by my friend. She decided to do that. She lets us use the space for 2 hours once a month. She provides a staff person. She provides tea for people to enjoy, and so that's an expense on her part. So the stationery store, you do have to consider what they may be offering and make sure they're on board with you. So it's not a simple thing to ask a stationery store to host your letter writing club. So just consider that. Okay, what do you actually do at a letter writing meetup? Well, you write letters. That's the main thing. But I would recommend you have a basic agenda. And here are the things that I would recommend that you incorporate when you're first getting started. First of all, I would suggest you do some introductions and let people introduce themselves. Then a lot of times you'll find that while people may love writing and they may love stationery, they don't have a reason to write a letter necessarily when they come to the meetup. So you may want to give them a prompt, and a great prompt that I have learned about from doing this for several years is you may want to reach out to your local Meals on Wheels. And a lot of times they really appreciate if you make little cards to stick into the meals, and that will give someone a prompt and to kick them off. Some other things that we have used for our we call it reasons to write. We do letters of gratitude. We send letters of thank you to local service providers. And then most months we just make sure we've set aside some time for people to write at least one letter to whoever they want. You can do thank you cards during the holidays. You can get your holiday cards ready. There's all types of things that you could do, and I recommend that you go ahead and kind of fill in a year's calendar of potential reasons to write and themes. Like I almost already have 2020 set up. I'm going to finalize that in November, if you will, and then I'll have a tentative calendar for the Tampa Letter Writers for the entire year of 2020. So that's how far in advance I have a general idea of our reasons to write, our prompts, our themes, that sort of thing. And also allows some time for socializing, because a lot of the people that would want to come to a meetup or a club, they may want to get to know one another and then share letters with one another and become pen pals. So it's a great way for like-minded people to get to know one another and feel comfortable sending mail to one another. So allow a little time for socializing. At our club, we usually ask people to bring, of course, the meeting space we have is the Paper Seahorse in Tampa, and they do provide lovely teas for us to drink. And then a lot of people just show up with snacks and like scones and maybe a pound cake or just something like that, and we have quite a bit of social time. Another thing to consider is maybe having what's called a swap box. That is something that we have at our club, and I've heard of other clubs having a swap box, and that is where members can bring extra stationery and just have a place where you can house extra stationery. We always have something in the swap box. So if we have someone new show up and they really don't know how to get started, or they didn't bring any supplies, they can always have some stationery to choose from. That leads me to, what do people bring? Well, at our club meetups, we just ask people to bring something to write on, something to write with, and maybe something to share. And that could be something as simple as bringing some cool rubber stamps that other members could use to decorate their mail or create mail art with. And those are the basics, really, that I think you should consider before you layer in anything too fancy. So let's talk about layering in some other fun things. Now, our club and myself, we are greatly inspired by some pioneers in this whole letter writing world. So I am very much inspired, and I want to give a shout out to the San Francisco Correspondence Co-op. They have been meeting for over 10 years at the San Francisco Public Library, and I will put here somewhere in my comments a couple of people that share quite a bit of information about what they do at those meetups. They share that on Instagram, and they're in it for the art. They're wonderful. They are happy to share how they do things. They've been doing this for a long time. And this past year, they really inspired our club to start doing something called a passport to adventures in correspondence, and incorporating what's called the artist stamp. Now, if you do not know what an artist stamp is, it is a fake postage stamp. You cannot use it as a real postage stamp. We have members that create them themselves. It can be as simple as a rubber stamp, or it can be elaborate and something that's designed and a full-out graphic design program. It varies. It's just a lot of fun. Usually a member will have at least one for each of our meetings, and sometimes we show up and people have brought several different types, and we put them into our little passport. And I'll insert some photos here so that you can see what we do. It goes over really well. It gives people something to be excited about, something to look forward to, something to collect. And we've had a good time with that, and we found it very successful. But we totally got that idea from the San Francisco Correspondence Co-op. Another thing that the San Francisco Correspondence Co-op has inspired us on is our agenda throughout the year, because the founder of that club, Jeannie Hinchcliffe, also is writer for Good Mail Day, and this is a fantastic book. It has all types of topics that we have incorporated into our meetup agenda, so I highly recommend Good Mail Day to give you some inspiration on things that you can talk about during your meetups. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to address them. But I think I covered just about everything that I know to cover, and I think I have addressed all the questions I've gotten so far. So once again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I will try to help you as much as I can. Thanks so much.